Rachel Morrison swallowed a microchip by accident. It was hidden in her coffee at a cafe in San Jose. Inside that chip, $47 billion worth of encrypted data secrets that could destroy Silicon Valley's most powerful companies. 3 hours later, men in black suits stormed the cafe looking for it. 6 months later, she was on the FBI's most wanted list. The chip is inside her stomach, and doctors say removing it will kill her. Now she's the most hunted woman in America. Tech billionaires want her dead. The government wants her alive, and the secrets inside her are about to be exposed. Rachel Morrison's Tuesday morning started the same way it had started for the past 4 years, with a large iced coffee from Binary Bites Cafe on West San Carlos Street in San Jose, California. She was a regular. The baristas knew her order by heart. Iced coffee, oat milk, 1 pump of vanilla, light ice. She came in every morning at 7:15 a.m., ordered, sat at her usual corner table by the window, and spent exactly 45 minutes working on her laptop before heading to her job as a junior software developer at a mid-sized tech company nobody had ever heard of. Rachel was 28 years old, lived in a studio apartment she could barely afford, drove a 12-year-old Honda Civic, and had exactly $1,847 in her savings account. She wasn't anyone important, wasn't anyone powerful, wasn't anyone who would ever end up on the news or in history books, until she swallowed the chip. It happened at 7:32 a.m. on a Tuesday in April. Rachel had just received her coffee and was taking her first sip when her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. She glanced down to read it, took another sip of coffee, and felt something small and hard go down with the liquid. She coughed slightly, confused. Had there been ice in her drink? She'd specifically asked for light ice. But the sensation wasn't quite like ice. It was more solid, more deliberate. She looked into her cup. Everything seemed normal. Just coffee and a few ice cubes floating at the top. Weird, she thought, but dismissed it. Probably just swallowed an ice chip wrong. Happens sometimes. She went back to her laptop, checking emails and reviewing code from yesterday's project. The cafe was moderately busy, about a dozen people scattered across tables, most with laptops or phones, the soundtrack of keyboard clicks and quiet conversations filling the space. At 7:47 a.m., 3 men walked into Binary Bites Cafe. They weren't dressed like typical San Jose tech workers. No hoodies, no sneakers, no company-branded T-shirts. These men wore dark suits, white shirts, and sunglasses despite being indoors. They moved with purpose, their eyes scanning the room with a kind of systematic precision that made Rachel's instincts prickle with unease. One of them approached the counter. Rachel couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw the barista's expression change from friendly customer service to confusion to something that looked like fear. The man in the suit pulled out his phone, showed the barista something on the screen. The barista shook her head, pointed toward the back area where employees kept their belongings. The 3 men immediately split up. One stayed at the counter, blocking the exit. The other 2 headed toward the back. Rachel felt her pulse quicken. Something was wrong, very wrong. She pretended to focus on her laptop while watching through her peripheral vision. The man at the counter was now questioning every barista, showing them something on his phone. Whatever it was made each of them shake their heads and look increasingly nervous. Then one of the men from the back emerged, holding a small black backpack. Not an employee backpack. This one looked expensive, technical, the kind of bag that might contain equipment worth thousands of dollars. The man opened it on the counter, and Rachel saw him pull out what looked like a scanning device. He powered it on, and a small screen lit up with text Rachel couldn't read from her distance. The device beeped. The man's expression changed. He spoke rapidly into a phone, his voice low but urgent. Then all three men turned and looked directly at the cafe's customers. Rachel's stomach dropped. One of them started moving through the cafe, holding the scanning device, pointing it briefly at each customer. When the device pointed at someone, it would beep once, apparently a negative result, and the man would move on. He was getting closer to Rachel's corner. Her mind raced. What were they looking for? What kind of device was that? Should she leave? But the exit was blocked, and running would draw attention. The man with the scanner reached the table next to hers. Beep. Negative. Moved on. Now he was standing beside Rachel's table. He pointed the device at her. The device didn't beep. Instead, it emitted a high-pitched tone, and the screen flashed red. The man's eyes widened. He spoke into his radio. Objective located. Rachel didn't speak Russian, but she understood the meaning from his expression and the sudden movement of all three men converging on her position. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us," the first man said, his accent thick but his English clear. "What? Why? Who are you?" Rachel stood up, her laptop nearly falling off the table. "You have something that belongs to our employer. We need to retrieve it." "I don't have anything. I don't even know who you are. Are you police?" The man's expression hardened. "Not police, but you will come with us or this becomes much more difficult." Other customers were watching now, phones being pulled out, some people recording. Rachel's survival instincts kicked in. These men were not official, were not law enforcement. And whatever they wanted from her, they weren't planning to ask nicely. She grabbed her laptop bag and bolted, not toward the blocked front exit, but toward the back through the employee area, where the baristas were standing frozen in shock. Sorry. Rachel shouted as she pushed through the swinging door marked Employees Only. Behind her, she heard shouting in Russian and English. Heavy footsteps. The men were chasing her. The back area was a narrow hallway leading to a storage room, an office, and thank God, a back door with an emergency exit sign. Rachel slammed her body against the push bar. The door flew open, an alarm immediately blaring. She stumbled into an alley filled with dumpsters and delivery trucks. Left or right? She chose left, running as fast as her legs would carry her, her laptop bag bouncing against her hip. Behind her, the back door slammed open again. The men were still chasing. Rachel turned onto the main street, weaving through mourning pedestrians, drawing startled looks and angry shouts as she pushed past people. She had no plan except to run, to get away, to find somewhere safe. She ducked into a parking garage, running up the stairs 2 at a time, her lungs burning. She could hear the footsteps behind her, relentless, getting closer, 3rd floor. She burst through the door and ran between parked cars, looking desperately for somewhere to hide. Found a large SUV, ducked behind it, pressed herself against the concrete wall. trying to control her breathing. Footsteps on the stairs. The door opening. Voices speaking Russian. Rachel held her breath. The footsteps walked past her hiding spot. Paused. Seemed to move away. She waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. Finally, she risked looking around the SUV. The level appeared empty. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. Who could she call? Police. And tell them what? That men in suits with scanning devices chased her from a cafe? They'd think she was crazy. Then she noticed something on her phone's screen. A notification she'd never seen before. Biometric alert. Foreign object detected. Medical attention recommended. What? She opened the notification. It expanded into a detailed medical scan that her phone, her regular iPhone, shouldn't have been capable of performing. Object type. Electronic device location. Stomach. Upper region size. 3 millimeters x1. 5 millimeters. Material composition. Silicon. Gold. Encrypted polymer coating radiation. Low-level RF transmission detected warning. Object appears to be actively transmitting data. Rachel stared at the screen, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. The coffee. That weird sensation of swallowing something solid. It hadn't been ice. She'd swallowed a microchip, and now these men were hunting her for it. But how did her phone know? How was it scanning her body? Unless... She looked at her phone more carefully. On the back, near the camera, there was a small sticker she didn't remember putting there. It looked like a normal tech company logo sticker, the kind you get at conferences. But when she touched it, it felt different, warm, active. Someone had modified her phone, turned it into a scanner, which meant someone had been tracking her, watching her, waiting for something. A new notification appeared. Encryption breaking down. Estimated. Time until full data exposure. 47 hours. You are in danger. Trust nitrogen monoxide 1. Delete this message. The message vanished 3 seconds after she read it. Rachel sat in that parking garage behind that SUV, trying to make sense of a situation that made no sense. She had a microchip in her stomach. People were hunting her for it. Her phone had been modified to track it. And whatever data was on that chip was going to be exposed in less than 2 days. She needed help. But who could she trust? Her phone rang, making her jump. Unknown number. Against every instinct, she answered. Rachel Morrison, a woman's voice, American accent, professional but urgent. Who is this? My name is Agent Sarah Chun, FBI Cybercrimes Division. You're in danger. Serious danger. Those men chasing you work for a Russian tech oligarch named Viktor Koslov. The microchip you accidentally swallowed contains stolen data worth approximately $47 billion. It includes source code, trade secrets, and classified information from 17 major tech companies, plus evidence of illegal government surveillance programs. Rachel's mouth went dry. How do you know? We've been tracking that chip for 6 months. It was stolen from a secure facility and was being transported by a courier who was supposed to deliver it to a buyer. But the courier panicked, tried to hide it in someone's coffee, and got killed before he could retrieve it. You swallowed it by accident. And now every intelligence agency, every tech company, and every criminal organization that knows about that data is looking for you. Can't you just remove it? Take it out? There was a pause. Rachel, we need you to come in. Voluntarily. we can protect you. That's not an answer to my question. Can you remove it? Another pause. Longer. The chip is coated in a polymer that reacts to attempted removal. It's designed to self-destruct if tampered with. The self-destruct mechanism releases a toxin. Anyone trying to surgically remove it would likely trigger it. You'd die within minutes. Rachel closed her eyes, the parking garage spinning around her. So it's permanent. I have a death chip in my stomach forever. We have specialists. We might be able to find a way, but first you need to come in. Let us protect you. Because, Rachel, if we know where you are, they do too. And they're not interested in keeping you alive. They just want the chip. Rachel looked at her phone, the phone that had been modified without her knowledge, that was tracking her, that someone was using to watch her every move. How do I know you're really FBI? How do I know this isn't a trick? Check your email. I'm sending you my credentials right now. Badge number, direct line to FBI, San Francisco field office. Everything. You can verify it all. Rachel's email chimed. She opened it with one hand, keeping Agent Chun on the line. The credentials looked legitimate, but she had no way to verify them in a parking garage while running for her life. Even if you're FBI, how do I know you're not just going to dissect me to get the chip? Because that's not how we work. And because the chip is actively transmitting. Whatever data it contains is already being leaked in fragments. We need you alive and cooperative to help us decrypt and contain it before it causes catastrophic damage to national security and the tech industry. Rachel heard a sound of car door closing somewhere on the level below. Footsteps. I have to go, she whispered. Rachel, wait. She hung up and ran. 6 months later, Rachel Morrison was living in an extended stay motel outside Sacramento under the name Jennifer Walsh, working nights as a data entry clerk for a medical billing company that didn't ask questions about her lack of references. Her hair was now dark brown instead of blonde. She wore glasses with non-prescription lenses. She gained 15 pounds deliberately, changing her body shape. She never used her real phone, never logged into her real social media accounts, never contacted anyone from her previous life. And every night she felt the microchip in her stomach like a ticking time bomb. She'd learned a lot in 6 months. Learned that she was officially wanted by the FBI for theft of classified information and corporate espionage, charges that would put her in federal prison for 30 years minimum. Learned that 3 different tech companies had put out unofficial bounties for information leading to her capture totaling over $15 million. Learned that at least 2 people who'd claimed to know her location had ended up dead before they could collect. The chip was still inside her, still transmitting, still slowly releasing its encrypted data into the ether. She'd tried to get it removed twice. The first doctor, a sketchy surgeon she'd found through dark web forums, took one look at the imaging and refused to touch her. That's a death trap, he'd said. I'm not a murderer. The second attempt had been worse. A team of ex-military medics had agreed to try. They'd gotten as far as making the incision when the chip had reacted. Rachel's entire body had gone into convulsions. Her blood pressure had spiked to stroke levels, and she'd nearly died on a makeshift operating table in a warehouse in Oakland. They'd sewn her back up and told her to leave before she died on their premises. The scar on her abdomen was a constant reminder of that failure, so she lived with it. lived with being the most wanted woman in Silicon Valley, lived with knowing that powerful people wanted her dead and the government wanted her imprisoned. And she lived with the knowledge that the chip's encryption was breaking down. The data leaks were getting worse. Every week, another story in the tech news. Anonymous source reveals Google's secret AI project. Facebook's illegal data harvesting exposed. Government backdoors and iPhone security confirmed. Rachel knew those leaks were coming from the chip inside her. She was a walking WikiLeaks, unable to stop the slow-motion disaster she'd accidentally become part of. Tonight was different, though. Tonight, someone had found her. Rachel was walking back to her motel from her shift at 2:17 a.m. when she noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, parked in the lot with its engine running. Hadn't been there when she'd left for work. She kept walking, trying to appear casual, but changed her route. Instead of going to her room, she headed toward the motel's back exit. The car's doors opened. 2 people got out. Not the Russian men from the cafe. These were different. A man and a woman, both in their 30s, dressed in casual clothes that somehow still looked official. Rachel Morrison, the woman called out. Not aggressive, not threatening, just stating a fact. Rachel stopped. No point running. They knew who she was. "We're not here to hurt you," the man said. He slowly pulled out a badge. FBI. "We just want to talk." "Agent Chung?" Rachel asked, recognizing the woman's voice from that phone call 6 months ago. "Yes. And this is Agent Marcus Rodriguez. We've been looking for you for a long time." "To arrest me?" "To help you." Rachel laughed bitterly. "Help me? By charging me with crimes I didn't commit? By putting me in a cell while tech companies sue me for billions and criminals try to kill me?" Agent Chun stepped closer, hands visible and empty. "The charges were a tactic. We needed you to surface. But Rachel, the situation has changed. The data leaks are accelerating. The chip is breaking down faster than we predicted. In approximately 3 weeks, all the encryption will be gone. Every secret on that chip will be released simultaneously. And when that happens, the tech industry collapses, government surveillance programs are exposed, and powerful people go to prison." Rachel finished. "Yeah, I've been following the news." "It's worse than that," Agent Rodriguez said. "The chip also contains malware, weaponized code designed to infiltrate critical infrastructure, power grids, financial systems, hospital networks. When the encryption fails completely, that malware will be released too. We're looking at a potential catastrophic cyber attack that could affect millions of people." Rachel felt sick. "And you think I can stop it?" "We think you're the only one who can, because the chip is biometrically locked to you now. It's been inside you for 6 months, integrated with your body's systems. Only you can trigger the fail-safe shutdown sequence." "There's a shutdown sequence?" "We believe so. Our analysts have been studying the leaked fragments. There's a pattern, a kind of code hidden in the transmission frequency. We think it's a manual override, but it requires physical proximity and biometric authentication. Your fingerprint, your DNA specifically." Rachel looked at both agents. "Why should I trust you? Why should I believe any of this?" Agent Chung pulled out a tablet, showed Rachel a video. It was security footage from Binary Bytes Cafe, the morning of the incident. Rachel watched herself swallow the coffee, watched the Russian men enter, watched herself run, but the video continued after she'd escaped. It showed the Russian men questioning the baristas, showed one of them pull out a phone and make a call, and then Rachel felt her blood turn cold. It showed the man putting something in another customer's coffee. They tried to replicate what happened with you, Agent Chun explained. 4 other people accidentally swallowed chips that morning. All of them died within 72 hours. The chips self-destructed because they weren't biometrically compatible. You survived because of a genetic anomaly. Your digestive system's pH levels, your antibody markers, something in your biology prevented the chip from self-destructing. You're the only person who's ever survived swallowing one of these. Rachel watched the video again. Watched the other victims. People who'd just gone in for coffee and ended up dead because of industrial espionage and criminal stupidity. "What do you need from me?" she asked quietly. "Come with us voluntarily. We have a facility where our specialists can work with you to trigger the shutdown sequence. We can protect you from the people hunting you. And when this is over, we can give you a new identity, real witness protection, a chance to actually disappear and live a normal life. And if I refuse?" Agent Rodriguez's expression was grim. "Then in 3 weeks the malware releases, critical infrastructure fails, and a lot of innocent people die. And you spend the rest of your life running from everyone who blames you for it." Rachel looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, satellites were receiving transmissions from the chip in her stomach. Data was leaking. Malware was waiting. A disaster was counting down. She thought about the people in that cafe, the 4 who died. Thought about the millions who might be affected if this went wrong. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll come with you, but I want immunity. Full immunity. In writing. And I want the charges dropped, publicly." "Deal," Agent Chun said immediately. "And one more thing. When this is over, you help me find the people who made this chip. The people who killed those 4 innocent people. Because they need to answer for that." Agent Chun and Rodriguez exchanged a glance. "We can't promise," Rodriguez started. "Wash-osh, then no deal," Rachel said flatly. "I want justice. Not for me. For them." Agent Chun was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "All right, justice. But first, we stop the countdown." They drove through the night to a facility in the hills outside San Francisco. Not a government building too visible. Instead, a private research campus that had been quietly commandeered by federal cybersecurity teams. Rachel was taken to a medical suite where doctors ran every test imaginable. CT scans, MRIs, blood work, genetic sequencing. The chip showed up clearly on imaging, a tiny speck of technology nestled in her stomach lining, pulsing with faint electromagnetic activity. "It's beautiful, in a terrifying way," one of the doctors murmured, studying the scans. "The engineering is extraordinary. Whoever designed this was a genius who created a weapon," Rachel said coldly. Over the next week, specialists worked to decode the shutdown sequence. They brought in cryptographers, engineers, former intelligence operatives who'd worked with similar technology. Slowly, they pieced together the puzzle. The shutdown required 3 things: Rachel's fingerprint on a specific frequency transmitter, a blood sample to verify DNA, and a vocal command, a specific phrase in a specific language. The phrase was in Ukrainian, the end of the game. On day 8, they were ready to attempt the shutdown. Rachel sat in a shielded room, surrounded by monitoring equipment. The transmitter device looked like a modified smartphone. Her finger rested on its screen. A needle was inserted in her arm, drawing blood for real-time DNA verification. When you speak the phrase, the chip will receive the command, Agent Chun explained. It should begin a controlled decomposition process. The data will be securely deleted, the malware will be neutralized, and the physical chip will dissolve harmlessly in your digestive system over the course of several days. And if it doesn't work, then we're back to square one. But Rachel, this is our best shot. Rachel took a deep breath, thought about the 4 people who died, thought about the millions who might die if the malware was released, thought about what her life had become and what it could be if this worked. She spoke clearly into the microphone. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then Rachel felt a sensation in her stomach, not painful but distinct, like something shifting, dissolving. The monitors around her started beeping. The electromagnetic readings were changing, dropping. "It's working," someone shouted. "The chip is responding." Rachel watched the screens. The tiny speck of light that represented the chip was fading. The transmission frequency was declining. The data stream was stopping. 10 minutes later, it was over. The chip was gone, dissolved into harmless biological compounds. The data was deleted. The malware was neutralized. Rachel Morrison, who had been the most wanted woman in Silicon Valley, was finally free. Sarah Chun, her legal name now, though she'd always think of herself as Rachel, walked into the courtroom in San Jose to testify. The trial had been front-page news for months. 17 defendants, including Viktor Kozlov, the Russian oligarch who'd commissioned the chip's creation, 4 tech company executives who'd participated in the illegal surveillance programs, 2 government officials who'd provided classified information. Sarah's testimony was the centerpiece. She told her story, the coffee, the chase, the 6 months running, the shutdown. She showed the scars, presented the evidence. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Viktor Kozlov was sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. The tech executives faced similar sentences. The government officials lost their positions and their pensions, and the families of the 4 people who died received settlements totaling $200 million from the companies involved. Sarah stood on the courthouse steps afterward, facing a sea of cameras and reporters. "How does it feel to finally have this behind you?" A reporter asked. Sarah thought about that question. About everything she'd lost, her old life, her anonymity, her innocence. About everything she'd gained, her voice, her purpose, her resolve. "It feels like justice," she said simply. "Not just for me, for everyone who is hurt by this. And I hope it sends a message that powerful people can't just treat ordinary citizens as collateral damage, that actions have consequences. That the truth always comes out eventually. What will you do now?" Sarah smiled. "I'm going back to school. Computer science with a focus on cybersecurity. Because if there's one thing I learned from all this, it's that the people building this technology need to have ethics, need to have conscience, need to remember that code doesn't just run on machines. It affects real people. Real lives." She walked down the steps, past the cameras, toward the future she was building. The chip was gone. The secrets were exposed. The criminals were imprisoned. And Rachel Morrison, now Sarah Chun, was finally truly free. But she would never forget the lesson she'd learned in that cafe 6 months ago. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the world fits in a single sip of coffee. And sometimes ordinary people become extraordinary simply by refusing to give up.